Yeah, Michelle. So Kawhi Leonard, he's been diagnosed with a torn meniscus in his right knee, sources tell me. And so this was an injury that clearly popped up in those first two games of this playoff series against the Suns. He averaged 35 points per game. He missed the last three games of this series with this meniscus tear injury that was revealed. And so it's just a disappointing year of finish, considering that how well Kawhi Leonard looked. Finally got on the floor at a high level in these playoffs after missing all of last year with the torn ACL. So it's the same right knee he had the ACL injury in, but it's not the ACL, it's not a ligament, it's his meniscus. And so you look at this Clippers team, they're going into a summer where Paul George, Kawhi Leonard will be going into last years of their deal as far as fully guaranteed contracts. They've got a player option in 2024. That's the same year that the new arena it will begin in LA. So there's going to be decisions to be made for the Clippers this summer. Do you give this Kawhi Leonard, Paul George regime another year to see if they can get past this hurdle? Because when they've been on the floor, we know how good they are. But the last two postseasons, they have played 0 playoff games together. They're in year 4. They're just finished up year 4 of this partnership together. Paul George spoke yesterday. He clearly wants another year with these two guys. Ty Lue spoke afterward talking about how Kawhi Leonard went through everything to get healthy and try to play. Paul George did everything they could. They just could not put it together with a healthy season. So Kawhi Leonard, now we know exactly what this right knee issue was. It was not a right knee sprain. He had a torn meniscus in that knee.
Dude, Chandler, what do you, I mean, your thoughts, what would you do?
That's brutal. Well, first of all, if I'm the Clippers, I think I'd give it one more chance. You could see you could see these guys are back. Kawhi Leonard was as good as I've seen him in years. Paul George shown flashes of his greatness. It's just tough because the biggest concern and question with this team and those guys in particular has always been health, and now Kawhi goes down. But I will say this, the meniscus, I've had 12 of them. It's the least concerning. The rehab is not that strenuous. It's 30-minute surgery, and he should be back at this point for the beginning of the season. So listen, I think they showed enough, and it's a tease, right? They showed flashes of being the best team in the Western Conference sometimes, and then and then someone would get hurt, and they had the depth, and they had guys off the bench step up. And I just think their biggest concern was health, and this is obviously a setback, but you're not going to go out in the market and get much better than Kawhi Leonard when he's healthy and Paul George. They have to find a way, and he's 1 year older, so it makes it even more difficult. But you explore the trade market, see your options, but I fully expect both of them to be back in a Clippers uniform at least one more year, give it a go, and see what happens. But this is a tough break for Kawhi because he was awesome this season when he was healthy.
Yeah, the full version of this team is enticing. I mean, you watch them win game 1 without Paul George, you go, oh, man, imagine if we had him. I saw Paul's podcast co-host Dallas saying that's a sweep if we have both guys. But it's a lot of ifs. It's a lot of ifs, and I hate to tag injury prone onto anybody. These guys don't want to be hurt, but they're both on the wrong side of 30. They both have a long track history of just random ailments, and these things build up. And when when you've torn every ligament in your knee, it matters. I'm with Chandler. I've torn my meniscus. It's the least damaging thing you can do. It's quick recovery. They do. It's not even a major surgery to fix that. But that's a lot of damage on one knee. And then on the other side with Paul George, same thing. Paul's actually older than Kawhi, which I think a lot of people don't realize. And I think you have to figure out what's out there in the trade market. You have to figure out if there's something available to you for Paul George. There's a lot of teams that could use a great two-way wing who can score, who can defend just about everybody in the league. I think that's probably the best bang for your buck right now. You look at what you gave up to get him. You gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who may be first-team All-NBA this year, who was an all-star, who was a 30-point-per-game scorer, who's a point guard who they could use right now, and all the draft picks. Maybe you get some return on that. Maybe you move into the next phase of your organization. They're moving into a new arena in 2 years. You want to show up to that arena with something nice and shiny, not two old guys who continue to be hurt and a bunch of what ifs. And that's what they have right now. And it's unfortunate because they look like a title team when they have everybody. They only have everybody for about 2 weeks a year. And that's just how it's been working out for them. Only so many times we can say what if before we have to move on to the next phase.
Yeah, there are a lot of what ifs. It's not just those two guys, Shams. They have other questions, right? The Clippers do heading into the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, you look at the roster. What do you do with Russell Westbrook? Does he come back this upcoming season? That's going to be a question mark as well. But most of this core is pretty much intact. Zubac is under contract for the long term. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George both have 1 year left as well. I think if you're the Clippers, you clearly have two routes right now. One route is keeping this group as is and holding on to this core of Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, because when they are on the floor together, listen, this team is a championship quality team. It's just getting them to the point where they can play kind of similar to the Pelicans. You're dealing with a situation where if you have this one player in Zion Williamson, if you have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George on the floor, you're a title contender. You have those dreams. It's just how do you get to the point where you have a perfect summer, you stay healthy, any issues that pop up, you stay on them. For medical staff, performance staff, more than ever, this is where this summer is going to be big for this Clippers organization. So you kind of have to potentially bank on one more year and see if you can get healthy with these two guys, just because of how dynamic, how good they are as a duo and the potential that they have. So and the other route is potentially going the other way and moving those two guys. You don't know what you can get. They're both on the other side of 30. They both clearly have dealt with injury issues the last few years as well. So what can you realistically get? Do you want to go into that new arena without having two shiny stars? It's a lot of questions for Steve Ballmer in this front office to answer for.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be a fun offseason for the Clippers.